call.
Megan? Here. Brian? Present. Brooks?
Here.
Rob? Here. Melissa? Here. Michael?
Here.
And Barb.
Here. Okay, thank you. Agenda, any changes to the agenda? Okay,
Motion to approve.
got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we've got the consent calendar. We've got a plat. Patrick?
Heidbrink, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Tote second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. All in favor? Opposed? I would like to make one correction on the minutes before we approve them. I was here. I'm not noted that I was here.
Melissa did revise the minutes during the week to reflect that. So
Okay.
this is probably the old copy, but she did make the change.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Move to approve the minutes.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any other points of interest? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, it's time for public comments. Anyone here wanting to make public comments that are not already on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to old business, the rezone application. This was sent to city council with a recommend of do not pass. City council sent it back for reconsideration, hoping to hear from the developer. So, go ahead, Patrick.
Nope, Russ is here, and I'll let him take it away.
Yes, ma'am. My name's Russell Atkins. I live at 8304 South Timber Oak Circle in Sioux Falls. I'm with Christensen Development Partners. We're the developer out at Aspen Ridge. First, I'd like to apologize for not being here at the last Planning and Zoning Commission. I'd like to be able to tell you that it was somebody else's fault, but unfortunately, I paperclipped my invite from Patrick inadvertently to another file and didn't have it on my calendar. So I was actually swimming in my swimming pool with my grandsons who were visiting from Colorado when I got the text from Tammy that said, "Why aren't you here?" So my apologies, but I would like to inform you on kind of why before I dive into a lot of various things with what we're thinking here. What we've had, one of our clients that we work with has put under contract 54 residential lots out here within the Aspen Ridge subdivision. Their game plan is to build 3 to 4 different price points. You haven't seen all of this yet, so it is coming. And so the remaining R2 land that is not being developed for the townhomes currently, they plan on coming in and building single-family homes there at the lowest price point. That'll be in the 400, 450 range. And the townhomes that we're building are in the $300,000 range. So we're transitioning from a $300,000 product to a $400,000 product. And then the idea along, I get all those names mixed up, and I shouldn't because they're my partner's kids. Alexa Street, we will be changing those 4 twin home lots that are slated to have 8 residences on them. I'm sorry, 8 residences. I'm messing up that math. Might be 8. I think it's 8 twin home lots. That's right. It's 4 and 4. Okay. So the existing R2 twin home lots, as you come into Alexa, will be actually single family lots. And those will be in that 500,000 range, which we're also lacking as a buffer up against Aspen Boulevard. But they're wanting 24 lots in that area. And so as you go around the bend with Alexa, those lots widen up pretty wide. And for us to be able to transition into the more expensive homes that are going to be going there in the south and southwest, we looked at adjusting a few lot lines. And doing that, it requires us to go to the R2. Not for twin homes, but for single-family homes. And I'd also like to note that the main reason for that is the bend, because your setbacks are at the bend. So if you go to the side yard setbacks are at the right-of-way. If you go to the setback of those lots, it would still be within an R1 distance. But because they're on that bend, it makes it difficult. Now, what that does do, it allows us to take 7 lots and get 9. But we're taking 16 lots and converting them to 12. So we're actually lowering density along this street and actually extending the distance to the driveways, which candidly we like the feel better. And also, if we are building 400,000 to 450 single-family lots to the east, then we transition into twin home lots. We didn't like that fill. So by transitioning from 400 to the 500, and then as you go, they also have 4 lots there on Breck Circle, which would be going up in price as well in the 6, and then they've got 4 lots down by the park, which will be the 700,000, possibly 8 there. So a lot of information. Sorry I wasn't here to kind of go through it, but that's kind of the big picture move with these guys. And like I said, as an existing client, they love Brandon. They love the school district, and they're excited to be part of it. Be happy to answer any questions.
Sure, I don't understand where you said you're gonna turn 16 into 12. Where's that?
Do you
I
have,
don't know what you mean by that.
do you have the first PDF? Not that one. I have
Is it page
that
9?
one, that one.
Page 9?
Yeah. So if you take a look as you come into Country Club and as you take a right, you come in there and you take a right. Alexa Street, yes ma'am. There's 8 twin home lots there, which would yield 16 residences. What you have not seen yet is the new DEP, which would change those lot lines to be single family, not twin homes, and there'd be 12 instead of 16. Instead of 8.
6 lots on each side instead of 4, for a total of 12 lots instead of 8.
Lots,
Is it
but dwelling
lots?
units, yes.
Yeah.
Dwelling units,
Yeah.
there will be 16
Well,
dwelling
I'm looking
units.
at a map with lines dividing the lots, so I'm trying to picture
Sure.
lots in my head. And so you're gonna come back and rezone those into R1? You're
No,
gonna request
No,
rezone those?
they would stay the R2. They'd just be single family instead of twin
And
home.
do you build those, or does the person who buys the lots from you build those?
Capstone Homes would be building those.
Couple questions. So we don't have any dimensions on the drawing that we have. So the 8 lots, 4 and 4 that you're gonna change to 6 and 6. What will the street frontage width be?
Patrick, do you recall that? And I don't think we've submitted anything to Tammy yet on the revised DEP.
Do you know
Um,
approximately what the current lot widths are? Okay.
No.
How about about the new ones that we're talking about here tonight? What's the current lot width and what's the proposed frontage width?
I'd have to go back to that other document, and I don't know if he put distances on that. Let me look at my copy.
So if you look at Alexa Street, the street just below that, Bergen, my GIS looks like those are about 100 feet wide, and those are very similar. So I would think they're right around 100 feet wide. No, I'm looking at the wrong street here. I'm on Chris. I thought I was on Bergen, but I was looking at Christensen. Which is the next street south, and that looks
That one right there, yeah.
similar. So yeah, right at about 100 feet.
So if you take 4 at 100, 400, and then you take 400 divided by 6, probably 50. 60. Thank you.
One thing, this is kind of big picture outside of this micro kind of big picture. With developers wanting smaller lots in certain circumstances, I really don't like the use of R2 as a way to get those smaller lots. I think we really should look at another zone between R1 and R2, so if you want to call it like R1B or something like that, that we could use to allow for smaller lots without opening up the door to R2. This might be a situation that we could do that. One thing, I don't know if this is something that we want to do or not, but if we wanted to, and I don't even know if we can do this, so I'm throwing it out there and we can discuss it, but if we wanted to take their offer of taking those twin home lots and lowering them to single family and having them rezone that into R1 and with the new plat size, and did a variance to allow that, and then a variance to allow the lots that they want to do into R2. That way we could keep those into R1 so that they couldn't put them into twin homes or something without further action. If that's something we want to entertain, I don't know, that's just something that might be possible solution.
But a variance requires a hardship.
I'm assuming the lots we're talking about here tonight on the curve, the reason you want to go to R2 is because they're too narrow to go R1, correct?
If you take the measurement at the curb, yes. If you take it at the setback, it would work. So the look, when you would be driving down, you'd still have the same distance between houses. And these are going to be really nice products. I mean, these are not lower end product. This is a pretty nice product, and they're actually selling them in Jefferson Heights right now, and they're well received. And again, their game plan is to try to get 3 to 4 different price points to meet the demand of all the different buyers that want to live out here.
what's the difference between the price points, Russ? Like extra bedroom or,
Some finish level, some square footage, some have 3-car, you know. The really nice stuff that's being built in Copper Creek is across from the park. So these guys are in here, they, like I said, they really like Brandon. We're actually looking at another piece just for them.
Yeah, I guess, you know, we can't dictate price point of what gets built. All we look at is density. And so, yeah, they might be nice houses, but they are denser because narrower lots, less restrictive side yard setbacks. You know, so just the space between the houses gets tighter. I'm not too concerned about the portion that fronts against Aspen Boulevard. I was kind of surprised that those are R1s to begin with, because typically you put your R3s and business entities up against a high traffic street like that, and then you work your way down to lower density.
Correct.
So, yeah, granted, they do look over the golf course, but they also have to deal with the noise of Aspen Boulevard, which is just going to continue to get more and more traffic on it. So I'm not concerned about that. What concerns me is we're starting to see a lot of developers come in and push for a higher amount of R2 and R3 than the R1s. And we want to kind of strive for a nice mixture of R1, R2, and R3. I know we just recently here, I don't remember what, a year and a half ago, started the R2s, but it seems like everybody that comes in wants to do everything in R2. So I think that's my concerns. Like I said, I'm not too concerned about the first half of the lots that front against Aspen, because in my mind, those probably should have been R2s to begin with, just because they're up against a high flow street. So.
Well, I would comment that we are technically reducing density, you know, with the overall plan. And again, I know it doesn't show it here because we're kind of focused in and kind of got our magnifying glass on a certain part of the site plan. But for the overall density in this area, it would be going down by 2 residences. And we kind of like the idea of having the single family coming in on Alexa Street if we're going to have single family on the other side too. And we like the staggered price points. We like how it meets customer demand. We like the quality that this builder does. So we just felt as a big picture piece that I wasn't here to deliver last time, that, you know, we as a developer, because we still got a lot to sell out there. And, you know, we got some pretty high priced lots down in the southwest corner that we're wanting to protect. So we actually liked this setup as an overall kind of better than what we currently have it.
My biggest concern with using the R2 is just that once it's zoned R2, that opens up the opportunity for
Sure.
Duplexes,
I
twin
understand
homes.
that, yes.
fourplex.
Is there a way to conditionally, R2 with conditions, that it has to be single family?
You cannot condition a rezone. At least our code does not allow it.
So the description with these is whatever, would you say just a legal description? That's because these haven't been platted, so
Right.
that will be stuff that we see later. So are there the changes proposed here, is that gonna change? Cause we're, if this were to be approved, it's deviating from the preliminary plan, so it's making a change there. Are there other changes that would be necessary because of that, because of the change? I know overall you said there's actually a reduction in total residences, but like engineering wise or,
We would have to come in with a revised DEP showing the different utility locations, which would show one set of utilities per lot. Then I'll be coming back in front, maybe not you guys, but talking about the 20 more entry-level residences that are on the east side of Country Club. We'll be coming back in for a site plan with that.
Are you in a hurry to get this moving?
They want to take the first set of lots down in February and start building,
Okay.
which means I've got to get streets and stuff in before snow.
So, I guess the reason I ask is since we don't have dimensions and we don't have areas, by changing these to smaller lots, even though they're R2, they may be of a size that would prohibit putting twin homes on them. I don't know, without knowing the dimensions of the
sure.
area. And so that's why I asked the question, if you could get us.
Sure.
And granted, until they're platted, we don't know exactly. But, if you could tell us what the lot width is and what the lot area is, if they're less than, we require 3,000 square foot per unit. So if they were under 6,000 square foot, you couldn't put a twin home on them. And that would alleviate any concerns from neighbors, or if you sell
Sure.
them off and somebody changes the game plan a year down the road.
Yeah, and I get the dilemma, taking it to R2 and then I get hit by a bus and somebody else buys the lot. So I get that, and we're willing as a developer to, work with you guys to make that a little bit more comfortable thing. Again, we're coming with a plan that we feel kind of fits a little bit better and lowers density and good quality builder and fits a need. So, and if my crystal ball worked, I'd have had this set up this way at the beginning, but
Would anyone else on the board here be interested in looking at another zone that would be between the R1 and R2, that we could allow developers to have some smaller lots in certain areas, but be able to keep that single family versus opening up to R2, which allows for a significant change from R1?
not sure. I mean, I can see where you came to an idea of that, to design something with limited uses, because that's a common question we have, of course, when things change, is, like it's been said here already, that there's no guarantee until these are A, rezoned, and then B, platted, and then all this, but I guess we do have that process of approving plats, so if suddenly came in with a couple of bigger plats trying to do something bigger, I guess we would see that, but, so
And
I don't know, yeah.
I can tell you from a developer standpoint, trying to deliver affordable housing is getting crazy, and land's not going down, concrete's not going down, asphalt's not going down, labor's not going down, and to try to deliver products to people that can afford them and live in the city is getting harder and harder and harder. That's why I think you hear from a lot of developers going to the R2, and I think that's why you see so many twin homes, townhomes, and things like that, is just trying to get those price points, down. can't imagine as a young kid starting out. I mean, the townhomes we're building are 300,000. You know, I wouldn't have wanted to done that right out of college. You know, so being able to get these prices down is hard.
I guess my thinking is there's a development on the north side of Sioux Falls, North Cliff, that they were building houses in the early 2000s, 2006, 7, 8, and when the housing market crashed, they stopped building there for about 10 years. And they came back and they filled it back in. It was owned single family, so they filled it in with single family. My concern is that the way that we're using R2, they could be building single family houses. If something happens where there's a change in the market, people that thought it was going to be a neighborhood full of single family, all of a sudden it could come back and they could be putting in duplexes, twin homes without any replat, rezone, anything. And that's my concern, to protect those neighborhoods from a big change like that. So there is just a significant difference between R1 and R2 that we currently have, and I think it could open up some big problems if there's a big shift in the market. So I would propose that we do something. If developers want some areas like this, or some they wanted to have some smaller lots, I don't think we should use it in the whole development by any means. I think it should be restricted, but I think it's something that we should consider instead of using R2.
Question for Patrick. When these, if we rezone it and they come in to get approval on the individual plats, what scares me is we lose control once we rezone it R2. Somebody could come in and put in large multifamily housing. Obviously, we'd need larger lots, but I guess my question is, if we rezone it R2 and then they come in and the plats are different than what we're seeing here, do we have the authority to say, no, we're not going to allow, 3 lots that are much bigger that they're going to put up, I don't know what we allow, 8 plexes? Do we have that authority to say no?
My preliminary opinion would be no, just because you're rezoning a block. You're not reviewing a plan, so they could make one huge lot and one 50-foot wide. They could slice it up as they will based off the reasons.
So that's where we don't have the control, other than your word, that this is what you're gonna do, but here again, we all know things change. And a year, 2 years down the road, they could say, hey, we can make more money if we put up 3 8-plexes instead of. Well, I don't know whether it's 6, 8, 4, I don't know what the number is. But the point is, we're making a commitment based on what you want to do. What we want to do and what actually happens change. I mean, no different than preliminary plats are changing to what we're doing now. I mean, that's only a little over a year ago that these were R1s, now they're R2s. A year from now, this R2 single family might be R2 multifamily. And we would have no control to say no. Because once it's rezoned R2, you can do anything that's allowed in R2.
Yeah, I get it. I do. I'm just
That's
trying
where
to
we
get
don't
some
have
lots
control when we
developed.
say
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
To the question, yeah, if R2, 8-plex would be conditional use, and up to 4 attached is by permitted use, so.
And you can go from a single family detached to a single family attached, so a twin home with the same size lot. So they are under conditional use under R1, but on R2, you can do that with nothing that we can do. So you can go from a single family, so you could buy your lot, build your home, and the developer will tell you that that's how the whole street's gonna be, and then all of a sudden you have a twin home next to you, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. I'm just saying it's different than what they were planning on, and we wouldn't have any control over that. Yep. He's wanting change to R2, so he could put up twin homes, so. Not under R2. He wants R2, so. But
Could I
he's,
get
his,
you-
Yeah, but the lots to the right can be twin homes. Four lots right now could be
Could-
R2.
I'm curious as to who the man in the audience is who is talking.
Hey, Justin, could I
And
get you to go
nobody
to the
who listens
microphone
to
so we
this
have it on
online will be able
recording
to
if
hear
you
anything he says.
Justin Oakland, 213 West Holly Boulevard, Brandon. I guess my point is, if you leave him in the R1, he's saying he plans to build twin homes, he still needs to come get conditional use. So as it sits, he cannot build a twin home without coming to this board for conditional use.
he's
Just a
here for,
thought or just a comment.
he's here for a rezone to R2, so.
No, I know. But
So we're.
If that doesn't go through, I'm just saying, as is, it would need conditional use. And it means no difference to me. I was here 7-8 years ago when this all switched to R1, 2, 3. Quite frankly, I think it's a good use of R2 with Aspen Boulevard, like Brian mentioned. I think it maybe even general business, would be a good fit on that corner. So anyway, thank you.
It makes me nervous to vote on something. Pushed it, I must have pushed it the wrong way. It makes me nervous to vote on something from what we're hearing, but the map doesn't match what we're hearing, and the map hasn't been updated yet to what they want to do, and that makes me nervous. I don't like to do that, and because we don't know the measurements, Now, Brian said something about so many square feet for a lot, and the new measurements might mean that more than single-family homes can't be built on there anyway, but if we knew what the measurements are, that would be helpful. Like I say, I'm nervous about voting on it before I know those details. And I did some math based on what you're talking. Yes, it would go from 23 units down to 21 if you do it the way that you're talking about. It would go from 23 units down to 21. Driveways would go from 15 up to 21. And just FYI, just in case that makes any difference to anybody.
All the R2s that exist right now would have 2 driveways.
Okay, so then.
So
So
the
then
driveways
these-
drop the
so
same
then
amount.
So then these 8 lots would go from 16 driveways down to 12 driveways.
Correct,
And then the 7 lots would go up to 9.
correct.
All right, now I gotta think in my head and do some more math.
And, if I may comment, if I had a map that had dimensions on it, none of your concerns really go away. Because you're still approving a meets and bounds for an R2. That it's the same thing, so it's like the chicken and the egg. I mean, I'm more than happy to commit to what the plat will look like. I'm more than happy to commit to a restriction. But I've got a builder who wants to come in and build 54 homes, and these are one of his price points that he's kind of after. Now, he's already started 2 out there, so they're committed to the area. And as a developer, I like the price points they're at. I like the quality of what they build. I like that it's a buffer up against Aspen Boulevard. I like it how it transitions, and as you drive down East Alexis Street, then the houses start getting more expensive as you go down.
So just so I understand correctly, you're gonna develop and build on those first 8 lots, and then you're gonna sell off these other ones that we're talking about tonight?
No, sir.
No.
No. We'll develop the street. Then Capstone will come in and build
Okay.
one product line. And actually, they don't have just the 21 that we've talked about. They got the other 3 across the street. But those are what those are. So they'll have 24 of their house product in the $500,000 to $600,000 range in that area as you come in on East Alexis Street.
And you said you're thinking about doing this because in another part of the development, you're gonna go from, what now?
So currently, there's 4.1 acres of R2 land on the east side of South Country Club Avenue that is, was contemplated to be townhomes. Right there.
And that was supposed to be townhomes in that area, and you wanna change that to what?
They would like, the same builder
Yeah.
that wants to build 54 homes in here has a entry-level home that we would come in and have 20 lots, 10 on each side, down a proposed new street that would be public.
What do we call affordable homes is how much?
Well, I say entry-level because I don't know affordable.
What do we call entry level?
4.25 to 475.
Almost $500,000 and we're calling that entry level home?
I'm telling you, it is really hard to get anything developed anymore. And it's not going to change. So, getting creative.
So that's 2,600 a month plus your property taxes and insurance at 6% interest for 30 years, 425.
I guess it's really coming down to, we have to trust what we're hearing. And I know you do a lot of business in town. I'm not quite as familiar with the people that you're talking about, but, when we do stuff like this, it's kind of word of mouth, and we have to assume that what you're telling us gets implemented, and overall, the density is gonna go down, the number of units is gonna go down. And I agree, people that wanna own a home would probably rather have a small house on a small lot than a twin home where, it's attached to somebody else's house and they, don't have the opportunity to do what they want with their own property because it's attached to somebody else's, so. Kind of comes down to integrity and our belief that you're going to do, or what's going to happen is what you're telling us. So that's really kind of what it's coming down to. Because I don't think any of us are opposed to what he's saying. It's just, it's not set in stone that that's exactly what's going to happen. So.
comment? Can maybe you talk about that, or somebody talk about that?
I think they were concerned about the density and adding more units in the neighborhood.
It was an email from somebody who lives just south of this. And yeah, that's what I got from their email too, that they were
But I think
concerned about multiple units.
But I think to address that, the number of units in the development is gonna go down. The number of. Yes, the number of driveways, the number of units, overall is gonna go down.
But Russ, I will say it's really hard to, I struggle with maps. It's really hard to picture this, and you're coming in and saying that the number is going down. I believe you and I trust you, but that's a real challenge because that's a real turn, at least in my mind.
Well, and from my perspective, at this juncture, I have to go through this step before I can show you all of those other things that we've already spent the money in engineering. I mean, it's sitting at DGR. They wanted to know if they wanted us to submit it before we got the rezone. And we said, well, no, hold off. Let's make sure. But, if there was a way for me to commit, I would.
Yeah, that part's, most rezones, it's not unusual to not have some of the information we've asked about. The only kind of difference here is that, well, I guess we might have a preliminary plan, my initial hiccup was that this differs from the preliminary plan, and we've had discussions before where we as a board shouldn't ask a developer to deviate from the preliminary plan, and now this is a request from the other side, but it helps to hear about the decrease in overall density. In fact, it decreases, multifamily to single family detached to, so
I haven't even
that's,
thought about that, but that's a good point.
Yeah, sometimes just hearing things, and I know you have the whole development memorized, but I don't.
Sure.
So when you say, oh, just to the east where we're gonna have this, and I don't see it on my map, and now I'm like, what? And then, like Barb said, math, It's hard to soak in and make sense of it instantaneously.
And that's where I apologize for not being here last time. Maybe a lot of the confusion would have been eliminated had I not missed the meeting.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the rezone to council.
no, I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to recommend rezone to city council. Any more discussion? I think we need to take what do I want to say?
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote, thank you, on this one.
Megan,
Nay.
Brian,
Aye.
Brooks,
Aye.
Rob, Alyssa, Michael,
Nay.
So I think it would come down to Barb, since it's not a variance, so that couldn't meet the standard anyway, so we have a 3-3, and if you want to abstain, we could put it through as a 3-3, or if you wanted to hold your vote to the council stage, or if you want to render one now, you certainly could. Whatever you feel is most appropriate.
Well, I try to follow what P and Z recommends, but in this case, it's like, and I have mixed feelings on it either way. Generally, council supports P and Z too, so I don't know. I guess it would be debated at the council level then, if I don't vote.
We
Well,
would-
either way, it's gonna go to council. It's just if it's a recommendation, yay or nay, right? So what's the easiest way for me out of this?
We could. I'm guessing we're not able to find a motion to either recommend or not recommend. So it could go back to council that planning and zoning would deadlock. And let council make a policy decision.
I don't feel that I'm really qualified as these members are to make that vote one way or the other. I don't want to be a chicken about it either. It's not my style. Oh, to vote on it at council, yeah. But I'd kind of like to hear what council's discussion is.
Is it inappropriate for anybody on the planning and zoning to explain why they voted the way they did?
No, if you are comfortable saying you certainly don't have to, but it depends on what your comfort level is. If you're willing to talk about it, if you would prefer not to, that's fine too.
For me, it's the setbacks of 5 foot we're going to, by going to R2 there, instead of the 7 foot side yard setbacks. That's what we're just pushing. I know we voted to go R2 to 5 foot, but it wasn't for this reason. It was more for the villas, the Z lots, if you want to call them, which some are existing now in town. It wasn't for, if you want to call it, single family, regular building, I would call it. And now we're squeezing them together even closer now again. If I would go back, I would say no to the 5 foot yard setbacks if this is how we're gonna use it.
So I'll explain why I voted the way I voted. For the overall development, the density is gonna go down, even though we have more R2 than we have R1. Based on, we have a guy with a lot of integrity here, so I'm gonna assume that would take place if this passes. I also considered the setbacks, but these are kinda like a cul-de-sac, and in a cul-de-sac, the setback is based not on the frontage, but at the setback line. And so this is kind of an in-between because it is on a curve. If this was on a straight line, I probably would have voted differently if these were just linear lots along a straight street. But the fact that, they're still, a trapezoidal shape, so that at the point where you're building the house, they're a little bit bigger lots than normal, so.
Except for what'll be the 12 lots on the east side, where he's gonna change those. Oh, yeah, well, but that's not what we're voting for tonight. Yeah, okay.
So officially the motion, since it's 3-3 with an abstain, the motion failed to do pass recommend. So that's where we're at. Yes, we could put it back to them, since it was just a sent back for reconsideration, that planning and zoning was unable to, unless someone wants to propose a new motion. But that planning planning and zoning was unable to make it, you were unable to adjust your previous recommendation. So your previous recommendation was a do not pass. So that's the current recommendation to city council. What you're talking about now is a reconsideration of that do not pass. So are you willing to change it? And if not, we can certainly put it back to them that you did reconsider, but you were deadlocked 3-3 in that reconsideration. So conceptually, then the do not pass would stand, since that was the motion already made and passed.
Well, I mean, by rights, should I vote? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the rule is.
We will pull
Why
up.
do we always get these interesting situations? You know Robert's Rules of Order, Alyssa. What do you think? Because I'm not part of the commission. I just run the meetings. So I don't know if that is a tiebreaker or not.
Yeah, that raises a question in my mind too. If it's a tie so that the chairman votes, which is like how the city council does it, that would give Barb here, she'd get to vote on it twice. What if something came to light that would make you change your mind between now and the day the council votes on it? You know?
Yeah, she votes twice, but they're in two different capacities. It's not like you're voting twice at the same thing. So she'd vote here, and then she, as president or chairman of this board, so it wouldn't. It's not like you get ultimate power because you make this vote.
So, Chapter 111.2 of the Municipal Code, Section B of that, the last sentence says, "The council representative shall act as the chairman of the commission and shall only vote in the event of a tie." In cases where it's like a variance, your vote wouldn't matter for the 2/3, but in this case it would. So, if you wanted to vote, you have the authority to do so. If you decided to abstain, I mean, we can't force you to vote, I guess, but.
Well, I'm not going to be a chicken and not vote. So my,
It's not gonna really matter because council's still gonna have to vote on
Right.
this. Whether, it's just what's our recommendation and I think Brian, I don't know who's gonna present this to council, but I'm sure they're gonna
It'll
explain what the vote was.
Yeah,
so.
it'll be a
Patrick.
combination of probably Barb will, I'm sure, talk about it at the meeting. I'll be there to talk about it. Brian Reed will be there to talk about it.
okay, so however I need to vote, I want to reverse the do not pass recommendation and let council fight it out.
So the motion made by Mr. Heidbrink was a do pass recommendation.
Yeah.
So a yes would be to vote for that. A no would be to not vote for a do pass.
So I will vote for the do pass and send that to council and let them know that it was a contested decision. Okay?
So the motion to do pass recommendation passes.
I don't know how you're gonna fare at city council, so if you can be there, that
That
would be
meeting
good.
is Monday night at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, all right, okay. Thanks for your time, Russ.
Can he present additional information at city council? Since it wasn't a variance? I know
Yes,
variances they can.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not an appeal of something, it's
Okay.
And any of you can come and speak too, as to your reasoning too. Monday at 6. Monday at 6. Okay, thank you. All right, can we move on to then the signage overlay?
We sure can. So I attempted to take what Mike had presented, and most of it is on page 27 of the packet. Hopefully that's somewhat closer in the right direction. It was interesting trying to come up with a table and all that, but hopefully we're we're moving that way. Hopefully it matches up what you said. I think we have, what you presented last time is on page 29.
Yeah, I think that sums up what I was trying to come across there, at least in the grid there.
Yeah, and I particularly like the part about, yeah, the allowing increased signage in this district. Kind of using a similar basis of linear frontage as we have in a draft for general business, but differing and not having to taper down after a certain point, because I think, in my opinion, this district is kind of designed for that, and we kind of learned more about that with the proposal from the Quickstar in that development, and then the council's action. So just their illustrations of what a 600 square foot sign is at that height was kind of eye-opening to me, so. And I appreciate, this was said last time, I also appreciate Mr. Totes' suggestion that that is written into here that, you know, basically forcing more of an increased signage to be higher because that's actually less impactful to the people right around. So I appreciate that. I like seeing that written up this way.
I'm gonna throw a little different opinion here. I guess I'm not in favor of increasing our area. I've voiced that at other meetings, so. And I did a little quick research. I started with Sioux Falls. I went north on the interstate to the first community. I went west to the first community. I went south to the first community. So basically Sioux Falls and then the 4 nearest surrounding communities. So Sioux Falls' ordinance is on-premise signage, 200 square feet, 30 feet tall. They do have an overlay district for off-premise signs, basically billboards. And that is things like Minnesota 41st, the interstates, and in that they allow 288 square feet, 40 foot tall. Hartford, theirs was kind of a confusing ordinance. On-premise signage, 20 to 30 feet tall. It said something about a total of 500 square feet, but they didn't really clarify it. 40 feet tall along the interstate. Off-premise signs, 288 square feet, 40 foot height, 500 feet between them. Oh, Sioux Falls also for their off-premise signs, 600 feet between signs. Brookings was the city to the north. Theirs is 240 square feet, 60 foot tall. And T, the next community to the south, here again along the interstate, they have off and on-premise. Their on-premise is 200, 30 foot tall. Their off-premise is 288, 40 foot tall. So, in my mind, going to 600, 690 is drastically different than surrounding communities and expectations of businesses in terms of what they can expect to develop in this immediate area. So I'm okay with the taller signs here again because we get the I-90 Plaza down in a hole. But I guess I'm not too excited about both 90 foot tall and 600 square feet. So, but that's just my opinion.
Part of my reasoning too was that I think in a way we were given a mandate by the council with their override of their approval of the variance request for the Quickstar.
Yeah, that was my reasoning for drawing it up that way, was the direction of the city council. Just, I think if we don't address it in the overlay district, then I feel like it opens it up through the city. Anyone that thinks that they can make an argument that they need to have visibility further, because that was really the size of the sign was really just visibility. The height, you could make the argument that they were in the hole, but the size, I didn't see how you could really make an argument for any other business that just wanted more visibility anywhere. So that's kind of why I wanted to get that addressed within the overlay district.
If we did want to go the way it's laid out here, shouldn't it say sign height 0 to 50, 50 to 70, 70 to 90? Because somebody could have a 50-foot, 8-inch sign, you know. So they wouldn't necessarily go up to the next foot.
However you want to slice it. If that makes more sense, that's fine. Or we could put language in there. We'll go back to second grade. If it's 5 and above, we round up. 4 below, we round down.
Might depend on how much wind there is for Paul's tape that day too.
I'd like to know if Brian, if you think 600 square feet is beyond what you would want, and 200 feet looks like we might need bigger signs than that, or would you keep it at 200, or what would you cap it at?
I personally don't see a need for a sign larger than 300 square feet. So, I mean, the interstate has sign systems in place to know if you're traveling and you're looking for food, lodging, what's the other one, food? Oh, gas. That they tell you far enough in advance what gas stations are at the next exit. They tell you what hotels are at the next exit. Do you have to know a mile before that what gas stations are there and what price their gas is? I don't think so.
Every business has to pay for that to be on those.
No, I know they do. But that's probably a lot cheaper than 600 square foot of signage and the pole to support it. It sounds okay when you're talking 1 or 2 signs, but pretty soon everybody's going to be putting them up. And what is that going to look like? So we see them, I think there's some, say, out at Kadoka, but you're not in a situation where you're going to have the density that we potentially could have. If you look at every business that's in the I-90 Plaza, if each one of them puts up a 600 square foot sign, if you go across the street, everybody over there puts up a 600 square foot sign, 90 foot tall. If that's what we want for the community of Brandon, then that's okay, I guess, but that's not what I want to see for the community of Brandon.
Well, part of our discussion was that even in the I-90 Plaza, for that example, that on quite a number of the lots, there's only a few of the lots that have a tremendous amount of frontage, so they'd be limited to 1 square foot per 1 foot of, so these 2 in the middle, the one that's already slated to be the Quick Star, and maybe the other half of that middle, and then I think there's talk of a bigger lot on the east end of the development. I guess we don't know for sure until all the lots are divvied up, but based on frontage, I think a lot of the lots would be, and then we also have a separation from some provision about separation or reduction near residential, so some of the lots on the south side would be limited by that as well.
Yeah, if you're within 300 feet of residential, you can't be above 30 feet. Then you gain a foot for every 3 feet away from residential, so. So the south lots in the I-90 plaza wouldn't get any more height.
So this is a discussion item at this point still, Patrick?
Correct.
So I'm not hearing a lot of concern about the height, I'm hearing some concern about the size. So, are there folks that are, other than Brian, uncomfortable with the way the chart is made? And we need to get that ask Patrick to make a change there, or what's the consensus?
To me, 600 square feet does seem pretty excessive. And if the towns around cap it at 288, which I think is kind of it's not an odd number, it's an even number, but it's oddly specific.
I think the 288 is kind of a typical billboard size. Because it's all, they list it in their off-premise signage, which would be billboards, so
I see.
I'm assuming the 288 must be a kind of a standard format
It's,
for billboards. That's just an assumption, I'm not a sign guy, but
it's 12 by 24, so it's just a,
at some point it probably worked with 4x8 sheets of plywood,
exactly.
and that has kind of set the standard, so.
Sure.
So here again, I've expressed it before, you know, we don't have to be unanimous in our decisions. And that's why it's a group. And, you know, if the rest of you want larger signs, that's fine. And as somebody mentioned, city council seems to be okay with it. That's just my opinion. I think 600 is too large. But one thing we should clarify in section C, where it talks about the separation distances, we should put units in there. It talks about a distance equal to the area. So we should clarify a distance in feet equal to square foot in feet. Is it inches to square feet? Is it yards to feet? We should just put units in there and then clarify, I'm assuming that's distance between signs on a lot, not distance to signs on adjacent lots, because someone can't control what their neighbor does and shouldn't be held liable for what, if their neighbor puts a sign right adjacent to the property line, that they shouldn't be able to put a sign up. So we should clarify that is for signs on a lot, because a lot of signage in a lot of municipalities is distant. So if somebody's already got a billboard up and you're within 500 feet or 600, depending on the community, you can't put up a billboard. So we should clarify that. I'm assuming that's the intent, is that's distance from signs on another sign on that lot and not signs on another lot.
So Brooks, to your point about city council being okay with the size of the signage, I'll have to admit that I did not focus on the size of the sign. I was focusing on the height, and I wish that I had split that out personally and made some changes to the size. So everybody else might be totally okay with it, but that was an oversight on my part.
And the other thing I was gonna mention is, based on somebody saying that 600 square feet is a lot, which it may be, but it's still, that's a maximum. And I think, because of section A, it's still 1 square foot per 1 linear foot of frontage, so you'd have to have 600 square feet of frontage to get a 600 square foot sign. And I think if that's, the chart is what we're gonna go by, I think maybe in A, it maybe should say that up to a maximum of 600. Perhaps, or maybe the chart takes care of it, but
So the 1 square foot of signage per 1 foot of linear street frontage, or what's in this chart, whichever of those two is smaller.
okay.
I'm not suggesting we write that sentence in there, but I'm trying to think in my head.
That's right, because the chart deals with height and placement of size. So I'm rereading this again after you said that. So up to 50 feet, 200 square foot maximum. 51 to 70, 400 square feet maximum, at least half must be above the 50-foot level, okay? Yeah. So I do still agree with that, but I think perhaps if the maximum footage is gonna be 600, then it maybe should be stated otherwise too, and along with the one-to-one.
Is the 600 maximum the sign itself or total per lot? Because you could conceptually say you have 800 feet of frontage, you could have a 600 and a 200.
Oh, right.
Or would
The
you prefer just a
Quickstar-
solid cap?
The Quickstar was almost 800, right? That's kind of what I was going by. Wasn't it like 550 and 200 or something like that?
It sounds right.
So that's kind of what I was going by, was to capture that idea. So they could have one large sign and then another sign with a maximum of 200.
Thank you for saying that. I got caught up in, yeah, the per sign. I wasn't separating the per sign in the chart versus the total in the section A, so.
And I know 600 feet's large, and if we weren't trying to get ahead of ourselves with the quick start thing, because I think 600 is huge, but you get it over 70 feet in the air, and it's not as big either. That's a long ways up there. Whether we want everyone along I-90 to be able to put signs 90 feet in the air, I don't know, but that is a long ways up there, so a 600-foot sign up there isn't going to be as intrusive as it is at 30 foot.
Just for time purposes, do we want to stew on it for a couple weeks and come back? Or are you good with public hearings, or how would you like to proceed? We don't have a current applicant that is needing it right now, so if you wanted the time to think about it, we have it currently. We don't need to make a rush decision unless you're ready.
I kind of agree with that, other than I do want to have it ready for the next one so that we're not looking at another variance. But so I do respect that time that we do have, but I don't want to waste it either.
So are we ready for Patrick to bring an actual something to vote on? Or Are there more of you that would like to reduce that 600?
If we would go to 300, I'm just talking, would most of these people look back at last meetings and go, oh, well, Quickstar got it, let's just go deny me and then I'll just go to city council? I don't know.
Well, and that's my concern, if we do something where they just go to city council and then they have something else in there, I guess I'd rather write it in a way that we have some control over it, but, but maybe we cap it at 300 and,
See what happens.
yeah,
See if anyone comes in and goes, I want 600.
yeah. And I would still, if we did that, I would say that, that we want to have some of that height, over 200 has to be above 50 feet or something like that. Still get some of that height up there, but I'm open to suggestions.
Do we have a lot of existing businesses up and down the interstate that would have enough linear street frontage to qualify for something that big? Do we? The hotels?
Probably your
The-
big consideration other than Brandon 90 is, so Bukowski Trucking owns a lot of land south of the interstate, and they could conceptually slice it up to maximize, should they choose. So, whenever they develop, if they ever do. That's probably your wild card area.
Last meeting, Brian, did you watch the last meeting? I don't know. Oh, we got talking about frontages and if the interstate was a frontage or not to some of these lots, because Holiday Inn doesn't really technically have a frontage. I mean, they got a little bit of frontage. I don't remember what it was, if it was 60 feet or whatever it was for because they lost it with the other hotel now, so. I guess they got sold. I didn't know that.
They did.
Holiday Inn. I'm assuming they're keeping it, but just switched it. And I talked about them last time, if they got sold, and I didn't even know it was in the process, so. And that's what we were talking about, if they would have to switch signs, they're probably out of compliance already, if it would switch to like a Hilton or something like that.
I don't remember, how did we address that frontage issue when they came in for that Redwood project where we had the access going around the existing building? Lee came in, it's on the corner of Redwood and Split Rock. How was the signage addressed for that? Cause that back parcel had zero signage, zero frontage.
We didn't let them have the frontage along Redwood. We gave them frontage on the shared part between, but we didn't give them
But their signage size was based on what?
on the shared between the two of them. The shared drive that,
So just the width of the mutual access?
yeah, the mutual access.
But I'm thinking, the two gas stations up on Split Rock, they could easily put up, 600-800 square feet of signage. They probably got enough frontage, I don't know. The one that was in here a couple months ago, just south of the BP, that one would probably be able to put up a pretty good sized sign.
I think the BP would have about 500 between Split Rock and Ash. And whether that would all be on one sign or two signs. So if they did two signs and had a taller 300 square foot sign and then a 200 square foot sign, I don't know how they would do that, but I think I do think there'd be limited places that would have two signs, one of over 400 and one of 200. I think we'd be pretty limited on places that would have that much frontage. And I understand your concern with the size. It's a huge, huge amount of signage that we're allowing. I just don't know how, if another business came in wanting a variance, how we would be able to look at that with any different hardship than what was allowed with Quick Start.
Okay, what direction do we want to give Patrick? Do we want to do the 200 and 400 and cap it at 400? I heard 300. I heard 500.
Maybe cap it at 4, it's 2, 4, and if somewhat, then we'll just see what happens. If they keep coming in for more, and we'll have to relook at it maybe.
So then we could just take off the bottom section there on the grid and change the 400 section to 50 foot to 90 foot. So there's a max of 90 foot. That kind of makes sense. Then half of it has to be above 50 feet.
I guess on that variance issue, I would see it would be hard to turn it down if they're in the I-90 plaza because they're in the hole. But if they're on level ground or, like Holiday Inn, those signs, that would be, I think, an argument for me that I could turn that variance down on the sizing of it to match the 600 that city council agreed to.
And I guess I was kind of looking at it like the height, I think we can address because of the topography, but I don't know how you argue the size, because the size is just visibility. In the higher you have the sign, the further you can see it. So if you, I guess I don't see how the size was the same argument. I guess I looked at those differently, but that's why I was wanting to have a little bit of time to discuss that, because I was fine with the height. I just didn't agree with the size, but if you think that there's a correlation there, I would be fine going down to 400 feet. And I do think we could have a couple other businesses in that I-90 that would want some bigger signs, and they might come back with a variance, but we'll see.
Okay, so are we good to go with that? Board?
It does look like the Holiday Inn does have frontage on Express Avenue to the south. Currently, it looks like the gas station is 2 parcels, but if they ever rezone that to 1 parcel, that's 900 linear feet. The parcel behind them is 600 plus to the west. So just on that block, there's a couple parcels that could easily do 600 square foot sign.
So do you feel more comfortable with the 400?
Here again, I mean, we can have differences
Yeah,
of opinion, so
I
I
know.
mean, if the rest of the group wants 600, that's okay, it's just my opinion, so.
Okay, well, I really don't want to take a vote on this, so let's,
Did anybody come and speak to city council when it council. I mean, we haven't had anybody in the public come and provide input. And usually they don't until it impacts them directly. Yeah.
Until it's up, and they don't like it. 400? Going once, going twice?
Sounds good. We will come back next time with a draft.
Okay, page 30.
This is just keeping the GB with the overlay district. Last time there wasn't any discussion or changes made, but we're just keeping them together just for tracking purposes. If someone wants to talk about it, we certainly can, but that's why it's in there.
With the idea being that when they go to public hearing, they go together, right? That's
Yes.
the general understanding, yep.
Okay, we're good on that. Moving on to page 31.
So I will let Justin get into as specific as he wants to be. I'm not going to throw your business out there unless you want me to. But so we have a lot that is average width but very deep. So Justin's just trying to figure out what he can do with it.
Again, Justin Oakland, 213 West Holly Boulevard. That is our office address here in Brandon. In passing, I was speaking with Patrick about a potential rezone, and he had just made mention that maybe we go as a discussion item. This would be new to me as a discussion item. I don't know what we can really discuss, or, I don't have anything prepared, but thank you for the email yesterday, and here I am.
Are you interested in me bringing up the lot, or would you prefer it kind of?
Yeah, so you can bring it up. It's currently zoned R2. It's got frontage. I have two different lots. One has frontage on Sioux Boulevard. One has frontage on a future Ironwood. So it's 66 feet wide, which would allow me to build, in the R2 that it's zoned. I could build fourplexes. I could stack whatever, 3, 4, 5 of them in there. I would have to do a bunch of measuring with side yard setbacks and whatnot. We'd have to turn them, and put private drives in, and you'd have to 90-degree into the garages of, say, fourplexes. Conditional use up to 8-plex. My thought is to go general business, and we would be looking to build an office for Oakland Homes. We spent 10 years at 312 West Holly Boulevard. My wife and I started Fit for Life Chiropractic. I officed out of the back half of that. We rented from Lee. It was then sold to Dyke House. We moved to Lee's new buildings at 213 West Holly, which again is general business, has, there's storage condos. We're next to Small Engine Dock. There's a couple other businesses in there that don't even have signage. And then behind us is the, traditional metal storage units. At 312, the former Fit for Life location, that again was general business, and hooked to the back of that was some storage units / kind of shop condos. There was a woodworking handyman that rented one. Prescription drug company had a climate controlled unit. Yeah, so that's our current facility at 213. Again, we lease that. Our lease is up at the end of 26, so that's what started this discussion was, hey, I need to work on a rezone. I need to work on an office design. And with the depth of that lot on Sioux, I was just thinking we could do something a little more like 312 Holly, if you could scoot over there next to Blaine's, next to 7th Avenue Hare. Looks, it's lap siding, looks like a house, gable front. minimal parking. You're talking, we need probably 10 parking spots, few employees, few customers. So that would be a little more L-shaped. I'm not sure the width on that. I wouldn't be able to probably do all that. That's a little wider, I think. It'd be from there to there. So yeah, that's quite a bit wider. I wouldn't have all of that. I wouldn't have 7th Avenue hair. I wouldn't have the stuff north of 7th Avenue hair. So anyway, and even you look at like Odeco's building, they've got R1 next to them. They've got R2 on the west side of them, R1 on the east side of them. Allison Dance Academy's down there on Sioux Boulevard. A building that was brought to my attention, Rob built for Fuse advertising, something kind of like that, just kind of house office looking with, I think that has a garage, Rob, if I am correct. So anyway, we looked around and those are all general business. That's why we just, I talked with Patrick. I said, what would be a next step to put up an office / have some storage? Some of the storage is going to be our stuff. We store excess. We misorder windows. We misorder cabinets, woodwork. There's stuff I don't like to throw away. It's all very valuable. We use it, from time to time. So believe it or not, we accumulate stuff. We have a few service vehicles with ladder racks and tools. We like to park those inside, especially in the winter. So the wood putty, the paint, that kind of stuff doesn't freeze. And then, of course, the tools. The trucks don't get broke into with all the hand tools and stuff. So that's, I guess, what's coming. We would want to rezone these yellow strip, that one and the one down on Ironwood to, general business. The Ironwood, we've actually had some conversation with, I guess I'll call it a snack shack. Ice cream, snacks, that kind of thing on your way into the Ball Diamonds. Whether anything comes of that or not, I don't know. But again, that would be general business and some